And we begin our newscast tonight with gun control. By next year, there may be tighter restrictions on who can and who cannot own guns. Earlier today, the U.S. Supreme Court debated over a federal law from the 1990s that bars those accused of domestic violence from possessing firearms. 17's Ginny Ha joining us now in studio with more. Ginny?
Jim, the court has a conservative majority that just last year expanded gun rights, saying restrictions need historical precedent. But reports today say the court seems to be leaning towards that federal regulation on those accused of domestic violence.
Because they're already accused of domestic violence, and if they continue to go forward, they will hurt somebody. Yeah, so no, I do not.
Discussions at the highest U.S. court on whether those accused of domestic violence should be able to own firearms.
Yes, who owns the guns is a big part of it. It's also that it's so easy to obtain them is part of the problem.
In United States versus Rahimi, the court must decide whether someone under a restraining order for domestic violence is excluded from Second Amendment rights. The subject of the case is Rahimi, a Texas man arrested for owning guns while he was under a domestic violence restraining order. Rahimi cites the Second Amendment, but eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The case was reheard by a New Orleans Court of Appeals, which sided with Rahimi following a 2022 Supreme Court ruling that gun restrictions must be based on historical precedents. This resulted in lower courts striking down on more than a dozen restriction laws. The New Orleans decision went against a 1994 ban on firearms for those in Rahimi's shoes. It's now up to the Supreme Court whether to reverse that ruling.
The legislature can make judgments to disarm people consistently with the Second Amendment based on dangerousness.
Both District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer and Sheriff Donnie Youngblood were unavailable for an interview. The Bakersfield Police Department did not provide statistics more specific to this report by airtime tonight, but as previously told 17 News, there were over 8,000 domestic calls as of September, 668 misdemeanor domestic violence arrest charges, and 377 felony domestic violence arrests. 17 News has counted 4 domestic violence homicides this year in Kern County, 3 of which were fatal shootings.
A decision isn't expected until early next summer, but debate is already well underway and protesters rallied outside the court throughout the day. In studio, Jenny Ha, 17 News.